All right. Well, thank you to everyone who has joined us. As many of you may remember, if you've been in the OHTSL, we did a webinar series during COVID in 2020, and then we did another one in 2022. And I kind of thought, let's see if there's an interest, if coaches are excited, and based on the registration and a lot of the people who have decided to join us, there's still an interest, which made me really excited. As some of you may know, and if you don't, my name is Marcy Schwartz. I am the director of coaching for the Ohio Travel Soccer League. I kind of work with a lot of your clubs. I'm sure I've met a lot of you in different capacities. If you take a lot of the US soccer courses that we offer, I normally teach those or show up at those and just kind of am all over the place. I'm also the tournament director for the Outdoor Ohio Travel Cup. So I jokingly say if you have a good experience and you like your bracket, it was me. If you didn't like your bracket, it wasn't me. Um, so that's something just to think about. But I'm going to get going today because we have a lot of information to discuss. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to take about the first 45 to 50 minutes just to give you information and discuss some things. I have an amazing co-presenter, friend, colleague with me who I'll introduce in a second. And then the last 10, 15 minutes, we're going to open it up for questions. Throughout the presentation, if you think of anything, please put it in the chat because we either may answer it while we're discussing or we'll wait and do some questions at the end. But we're really excited just about this opportunity. So I am going to share my screen and I'll be looking for a thumbs up just to make sure that everyone can see it. Okay, perfect. So today we are talking about more than soccer, some creative ways to keep your players having fun. And just kind of, we're going to talk about it mostly from the lens of practices and training, but we will find ways to introduce the idea of games. I am so, so excited to have joining me to have some fun discussing. Again, friend, colleague, amazing soccer coach, everything you could talk about, Rachel Bernard. So, a little bit about Rachel. She currently works alongside me. We both work with US Club Soccer and the education and development director side of things. She's been a girls' youth director in San Juan. She lived in California for several years, was very big time in the San Juan Soccer Club over there, and then relocated to Charleston for US Club and is now coaching in Charleston in a youth club as well. She got her degree in interpersonal communications and she currently holds her B license. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us and joining me today. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks, Mars. Appreciate and really just happy to get to know everybody. Happy to be here again. We all think we know little ways to kind of impact the game. So I don't know everything that's out there, but hopefully I can give you guys a couple little things here and there that you can take away and actually make a difference in the lives of your players.
Perfect. Thanks, Rach. So again, what we're going to do is it really will kind of be me and Rachel sharing a bunch of ideas to start. And then once we get to the end, we will be opening it up for questions. So please write them down, throw them in the chat, but we will have time for you to ask us anything connected to what we're talking about and how to make the environment fun. So when we start, what we'd like for you to do is if you have a piece of paper or even just think about in your head, how would you define the word fun? If I said something is fun, write down a definition, take a minute, think of a definition of how you as a coach would define the word fun. And then after you have some ideas or some words written down, now write down or think about how would your players, whatever age, whatever gender you're working with, how would they define the word fun? And then I want you to take a minute to think about those two responses and say, are they similar or are they different? And I want to throw this to Rachel again in her experience, because again, she's been a coach, she is a coach, and she is a mom as well, but she's also coached a lot of different ages. And Rachel, in your view, why do you think it's important to understand the difference between the definition of fun for adults and for kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as an adult, especially when you've kind of gone through the process, we kind of want there to be a delayed enjoyment. So we want to get through all the like technical, tactical things, think that we're doing everything right. And then we think if there's time at the end of practice or if there's time at the end of the week, we'll throw
This
in some
meeting is
fun.
being recorded.
Oh, and then for kids, I think it just comes naturally for them to want to be social, silly at the beginning, and then kind of see where it goes throughout the training and their journey. So I think the magic sauce here is that if you can obviously get kids to have fun and improve at the same time, you almost want to flip the adult instinct, right? To make sure that they're doing it throughout because when they improve because they're having fun, it's not because of in spite of it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So if we can collaborate and kind of find a common balance, then actually you're doing more for the player than you would if you think that we have to get through all these important topics before we get to that. So in the diagram, you can easily see that, perfecting a passing drill or showing up and, we're going to work on breaking lines of pressure today. In their heads, they want to start by obviously feeling safe and feeling that they're welcome. And so by doing that, you can obviously just kind of do little tips and tricks, which we'll go into next, to kind of start to get the engagement going. And so hopefully you guys understand that by building a great practice, we have to coach for their definition, not ours.
Thank you, Rachel. And as we're kind of doing it again, it's also recognizing that fun is going to be defined differently based on who is in front of you, right? It might be different for a 6-year-old than it is an 8-year-old. That's different than an
Yeah.
11-year-old. And boys and girls will define fun differently as well based on their needs. So what we want us all to think about is changing our lens as coaches, right? Changing our mindset to be thinking about what we normally do. And it's so reactionary and so normal for all of us to say, did the activity go well? Did they do it right? Were they successful? Can we start to change our mindset as we're reflecting backwards to say, did the players enjoy themselves? Were they engaged while learning is occurring? So, a question for you, Rachel, is a lot of us think about development, right? And as that's a focus that we all want to do, but we think about the idea of how can we maintain that technical development, but keeping joy and keeping that meter high as players go through different ages.
Yeah. I mean, I think the moral of the story is that it doesn't have to disappear as they get older. And I'll touch on that at the end. But if you kind of break it up into three different chunks, you can start with the 6 to 10 years age. Hopefully, there's a wide variety of people on this call that coach in the youngers all the way up to under 18. Whatever you do, there is a way to incorporate it. So everything I'm talking about can be translated at whatever gender or age group that you're doing. So to start with, if you think about the youngers, they want to show up, they want to have fun, they like small-sided games, they learn through repetition, not a lot of line standing, and they just want to have both incorporated all the time, if that makes sense. So that should kind of be your focus when they're kind of introductory or like kind of being introduced to the game. How many times do we see kids that are just not engaged and you look over at that session and you're like, I wouldn't want to be a part of that. The whole idea is that from the outside that, it looks like, A, they're having fun, but they're being engaged. I think that was one of the biggest words that a lot of people put in what they want to get out of this. And so we'll give you guys some actual tangible tools to do. But as you move into the 11 and 14 age group, I don't know how many coach there, you can start to blend the fun with more intention. So you can start to incorporate more competition, obviously make it more realistic decision making, but you can still have fun by blending the two, but it starts to become more of, wow, we worked on building out of the back, and the joy we got from seeing that in the game this weekend was so amazing, right? So it's not about playing sharks and minnows all the time. It's about actually seeing the development in practice and then it translating into the game. So I can give you an example of my 2018 boys that have been really trying to work hard at just simple, building. Obviously, with the build out line, they have to look up and find those different angles and break lines if it's possible. And we got absolutely shellacked by the team that we were playing. But within that, they had one of the best moments of soccer the entire year. And so that was fun for them to see that they have actually progressed and to see that translate from practice to game, if that makes sense. And then if you do with the older age groups, I put purpose fuels joy. Basically, obviously, you're not going to start maybe with, sharks and minnows as an example, but talking to some colleagues, there are ways that you can actually incorporate, schoolyard games to keep it fun and light, even at the professional levels. Because what you want to do is retain those players and keep it fun, but also take it serious in ways that it needs to at moments. So for them, the joy becomes from working hard, being intentional about their training, but then obviously you have to balance it on the front end and the back end to keep them there and to keep the joy alive. I mean, we've heard the term burnout for how long? Because I think some people take it too seriously at some times. So, just to sum it up, as players age, joy doesn't disappear. It really can just shift depending on the age group. So,
No, thank you, Rach. And it's so important for us to be thinking again about the idea of joy, fun, but we're not going to also take away the soccer because that's a reason that for some of them they're there, for others their parents tell them they're there for whatever it might be. So what we're going to shift to is now a couple of different ways. What we've done is chunked this into three categories of training sessions or in practices. So before, during, and after. Before, we were going to focus on the idea of building the connections. During is engineering different actions that we want to see and how can we work on that while make sure that fun is at the forefront of the environment. And then after that, we've left an impression. They want to come back. They want to play the game more. So when we shift into the idea of before, what we're thinking about is the importance of rapport, right? We need to build time for this. So as we're planning, thinking about how we could be there early to make sure that when kids show up, we're focusing on giving them the experience first and the explanation second. So, Rachel, a quick question for you in regards to the idea of before. What are some ideas or methods that you've used that kind of have built that rapport from the beginning? Or what do you, I want to word it right. What do you do in your planning to make sure that the connection is built so they show up and are excited to be there because of the relationship that you've built as a coach?
yeah, I think this is something so applicable to all of us. How many times have we come to training, we're a little frazzled coming from work. We just want to get to the field. We're walking by our players. We just think I got to set up. And those are such key moments that you can just spend 1 minute asking your player as you're walking to the field. Hey Reese, how was your day at school? And most of the time they'll be like, good. So you want to ask them specific questions, right? I had a boy that just got back from Disney World last week, and so I knew that he was on that trip. And so if it helps to make a note in your phone of what's going on in the lives of your players, I do that as kind of like a cheat sheet. And so I kind of refer to it as I go into the training session or before a game. And I remember that Tucker was in Disneyland. What did Tucker do in Disney World? And so I'll ask him about a specific ride, and then you will see that they're actually opening up more to you than they would if they're in the practice session. And that's key time for them to create a relationship with you and feel safe. And if you have a player that feels safe in your environment, the long-term goal of them wanting to be there just expands tremendously. So creating time before the session is key. And so if you ever see a player that kind of shows up and it's kind of on their own, or if they're kind of knocking the ball around and you notice that they're kind of outside of the group, maybe encourage a player that maybe has more of a dominant personality to connect with that player, bring them over, pass, and then chat with them. You'd be surprised how much these players have to say, depending on, and that's not just in the younger age groups. Try touching topic with a teenage female. That's even harder sometimes. And so you really do have to come down to their level and think about what they're into and then connect in that way.
It's so important. And something that leads us into the next part, which will lead us into the during, is what also most players, if not all players, really thrive on is routine and structure. They like to show up and know what's happening, whether they admit that they like surprises or not. So come up with what can be a routine activity that can happen right from the beginning. Players show up, it's set up already, and they can start to take ownership in it. Even at the youngest ages, I've coached 8, 9-year-olds, right? The beginning of our league, we start at 9. And you can have that routine. It starts in the beginning. You help understand. Eventually, we have it set up. Have a bag of tennis balls. Player comes, grab a tennis ball, starts juggling. Have some small sided games with pennies laid out. First player grabs a penny. Next player, one on one. Next player, two on one. Next player, two on two. And they start playing. And that allows
Absolutely.
you, to the point of the time that we're talking about, the time to now intro, talk to parents, do what you need to do, make sure that it's there. But the players show up and they're already doing an activity that's fun.
Yeah.
Connected to that is safety, because otherwise, let's be honest, what do our players do, especially our younger ones, right? They show up, they get in a line, four people in goal, and they kick it as hard as they can. And we're
Yeah.
all sitting there like, oh goodness, please don't get hit. So the more that we can create routine for the players, not only is it going to be fun because they're going to show up and say, oh, I want to be first. Oh, I want to be this color. Oh, I'm going to juggle more than you. But it's also a way for them to start to take ownership in their learning.
Yeah.
Ownership equals power. Power equals fun to children,
Yeah.
because
And I just
that's
want to
what
touch
they
on
learn. Yeah, go
the
Rachel,
vulnerable side to that, Mars, is
please.
usually when you step into the practice, you put on your coach hat, right? And you're kind of like, all right, Coach Rachel's here. We're going to be serious. But if you have that time before and after, it kind of makes you this vulnerable just person, right? You're not Coach Rachel. You could be this silly coach mom that wants to connect with the players on things that they wouldn't even think that you would be into. And I also want to encourage you to be vulnerable and have conversations with the parents. I think that's a big piece is if you walk in blind and you kind of ignore who they are, it just takes a simple question to be like, hey, a lot of us end up being friends with some of our parents on social media. So if you notice something, be like, hey, notice you guys went to the beach this weekend. Like, how was that? You would be shocked how much more they come to respect you and give you time of day if for some reason you maybe drop the ball because you're getting to know them and you're investing in not only the player's experience, but their experience. So I just wanted to add that.
No, thank you, Rach. It's so important, right? We need to be relatable. We can't be so high up. So we're going to transition now into the during. And there's a lot of stuff on the slide. So we're going to go over it, and then Rachel's gonna connect a lot, because a lot of these are things I've seen her do. So it's in action. We're even going to show you some clips from some environments that she's been in, connected to what it looks like with players. So you could see it happening in action. But what we have to do is start to transform activities into engaging challenges, right? Players are there a lot of times because they want to be challenged, whether it's individually, whether it's collectively, whether they want it to be a competition. No matter what it is, they get excited when, even if there's nothing to really win, they feel like there's something to win, right? Even if they're all working together. So when we look at this, we've broken it into four categories, and we put on the left side kind of what is the standard activity, and then what's a way to make it engaging. And I'm going to turn it to Rachel in 1 minute to talk through it. But what we need to be thinking about is we have our warm ups, we have kind of the focus that we're looking at, we have incentives that we can use, and then we have kind of the identity that we've put, or the name put on it. So, Rachel, if you're good, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of talk us through this a little bit, and then we'll show some clips.
Absolutely. So just going back to how many age groups this can touch. Again, this can translate from girls to boys, all the way up from U6 to U18. I talked to a friend of mine who played in the MLS, and I asked him, I said, hey, like, what were some ways that you tried to, or your coaches tried to keep the trainings at least fun, right? And you're playing in an MLS division, getting paid money. And he's like, we started with tag, and we played schoolyard games to kind of get things going and to start the engagement. And so when it looks like you can only do these little games with some of the younger age groups, you can absolutely make it more challenging and more engaging. And again, it just kind of lightens the mood and gets them a little bit more. Just in a friendly manner to start the training. But again, it doesn't have to take away from the soccer. So you can make it challenging and you can make it technical heavy or whatever you're working on. But again, it's just more of like the foxtail game, right? Where you stick the penny and you have to pull it. Or, I mean, you can literally look up as many exercises as you want. It's more about applying it and being intentional about why you're doing it. So after that, the focus quality over quantity. A good example will be kind of in the next clip. You'll see the end where we do kind of the fun exercise. But a good example would be you're doing a session on just dribbling, right? The technical piece of dribbling, and you're doing relays, right? With two, groups of two. So you're not a lot of line standing, it's constant repetition. But what I tell them is it's not the fastest group that gets done with the skill in between, it's the group with the best quality. So if we're working on a scissors or we're working on a Maradona, whatever skill you have at them, I'm looking for the boys or the girls that are actually trying to do the proper, let's see, skill technique versus just trying to get done fast to win. So that's how you can kind of change the focus to, it's about the fastest, best player on the team. About, no, actually, this kid might be a little bit slower to develop, but his technique is actually really good. So that's when you want to reward that player and be like, I'm so proud of you. I really noticed that when you were trying. So that's again a way to kind of switch it and not make it about the best team all the time, because you are going to have a difference in player, obviously, across the board. Incentives, basically, you can do anything with this. One of the ones that I do all the time is if they are doing like a rondo game and it's I play a ball into the middle. I say first team that has the best dance move gets the ball. And so I've tried this across a lot of age groups, a lot of genders, and shockingly, they all think it's amazing. So basically, if you see a player that's doing a really cool dance move, you play them the ball and then the game starts. So not only is it a way to transition into the game quicker, but it keeps them engaged. It keeps them having fun. They think it's silly, but then as soon as the ball's in, we're business, right? So again, it's that balance of having fun, but also demanding the quality when we get into the game. And then identity. You can go all over the map with this, but one of the best ones you can do is obviously give ownership to the players to create different names or create different challenges within the game. So obviously, the easy ones are if we're playing a 4v4 tournament and I'm doing my boys' teams, they're not going to really connect to Disney movie names. They're going to connect more to Minecraft or World Cup teams. And if they're really young, they don't understand what countries are. So they start yelling out Texas. And I'm like, well, that's not a country. So again, you have to really identify the age group you're working with and then give them that ownership of having fun in that moment, right? And then they think, oh, Barcelona scored. And then even with that, you can say, well, now if you guys score, we're going to give you some different handshakes you have to do, or the goal doesn't count. So they love that one, especially because they'll score the goal and then all of a sudden they'll forget to go over to their partner and do the handshake and then they don't get the goal. So it keeps them, again, engaged, but also incorporating that fun versus just doing a 4v4, monotonous tournament that you would do in a game. So again, these are just kind of little tiny tips to start us off that you can really throw in. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I want to reiterate that it's not supposed to pull away 10 or 15 minutes with each different progression. It's something that you can kind of get used to and maybe throw in one at the start and get used to that and then throw it in another one as you get going and just see how they react to it. So hopefully that will help you guys just when you transform the activities into more engaging challenges.
Oh, thank you, Rach. And with the idea of incentives as well, again, it works with a lot of ages. It works really well with boys. It can work with girls too. It just depends on the team and the age that you're dealing with. But anytime you add just the incentive of 2 minutes left, game restarts, it's a whole new level of intensity,
Yep.
but also enjoyment comes of it. Or, hey, you're down 2 goals and now you got to come back. And they'll go, that's not fair. And you go, life's not fair. And you make it really just fun. A big component and something that we should really hit on. And it's a good thing because Rachel and I are both extroverts in the best way possible. Your energy and your presence is going to also play a huge component in any of this working. When they see the
Absolutely.
adult, right, be silly, when they see the adult not take it so seriously, mistakes can occur and they feel more comfortable. They'll start to take risks. They'll be excited when they do something right because they know your enjoyment and joy will show as well. So you have to model the behavior that you want to see from them. If you don't enjoy it, neither will they. And it's really important for all of us because guess what? When we were 8, when we were 10, we did not have the stress, the gray hair, the life that we all live, and so many other components. So they don't understand what we're dealing with. So I always say when you step over the white line, it's all soccer. It needs to be that way for us as much as we're trying to bring that out for them. It starts with us as coaches, it ends with them as players. And modeling is a huge component. And you'll see some of
Absolutely.
some of the pictures later on that Rachel does that really, really well. All right, Rachel, let's show some videos. Is that okay?
Yep,
So
absolutely.
I'll pull it up. Do you want to give some context and then we'll play them?
Why don't you play it and then I'll give him a little recap of what we were doing.
All right, so here is the first one.
Get set, go!
You want to talk through this one real quick?
Yes. Okay. So this is a way that you can kind of end maybe a warm up or one of the first progressions of your session. We just spent probably 10, 15 minutes on really trying to hone in on their, technical skills. We're trying to get them to be creative on the ball, try different moves. And so they were in different relay groups. So after they're done with that for about 10 minutes, of course, it's going to get a little tiring and they might think like it's kind of the same thing. So before they go to water, we're like, okay, we're gonna do the snake train. So the snake train is something that I started a long time ago. And basically the objective is to stay connected as a group. If you break the chain, you have to go back and start over. But it builds so much laughter right before they leave for water. And it's something that's competitive, but it's also something that they can, again, be silly with, but also understand that like they worked really hard. And so I want to reward them with kind of a moment in the training for them to kind of let their guard down and have fun. So again, you can Google, YouTube, all the different types of games. It's being intentional about when to put them into the session, and when to kind of let them have that moment. Marcy touched on obviously the more energy you bring to it, they will enjoy that. But they'll also read if you are too silly or if you let your guard down too much. They will take advantage in a heartbeat. And so you do want to have that balance of being silly and fun, and then it's like, okay, let's go to water, be back in 2 minutes. And so you kind of have that structure, but let them to kind of have fun. So just a fun little exercise.
Here's the next one.
Go! Around the cone, around the cone. Good. First to the ball.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so in this one, it's a very simple 2v2 to goal exercise, but we put in little fun transitions to keep them in their line engaged, right? How many times do we set up goals or games and you look and the person that's behind the line is looking off into the distance and you're like, okay, let's focus, but for whatever reason they can't. So in this one, you give them a specific topic or a transition that they have to do to get into the field. So in that one, they had to do a bear crawl. Girls love to do cartwheels. And so you can say, okay, cartwheel, enter the game. And so not only are they being active, but it keeps them accountable, right? So if I look over and their hand's not on the post, it means that they're not ready and they're not ready to start that other transition. So again, you can throw in somersaults, you can throw in karaoke, high knees. You can be as silly as you want. I've had them growl like dogs and run in like that, it depending on the age group. So again, it's about taking the exercise, taking the training, but throwing in some little things to kind of again keep them laughing, having fun. And so again, you guys have seen where they're kind of just like direct. Basic 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3 plus one, it gets a little boring. So hopefully this can kind of get you a little bit creative thinking that you can throw into your sessions.
No, it's so fun and it's always fun to see it in action, right? How old were those boys?
Those were 7-year-olds.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you could see, and honestly, I believe that you could do that with any age, and they'll think it's even more
Absolutely.
funny when you see the older kids doing it, right?
Well, 100%. I mean, if you challenge a 17-year-old boy to do a bear crawl or a cartwheel, actually they are more physically capable of doing it than some of the other boys right now that are a little bit more awkward. It really does just raise the energy completely to make sure that, again, when you slide on that side of being a little silly, it almost makes people feel uncomfortable and they look around. But then it's actually like, okay, it's a welcoming environment. We can actually dig into this and make it really enjoyable. So
No, absolutely. Thank you, Rach. And this leads into, because it's interesting, even you saw though in Rachel's activity, there are times where there are going to be natural pauses in activity. And we mean pauses in different ways. One in regards to downtime and transition, right? Transition, go get a water break, transition between activities, transition between just rotating teams, lots of different opportunities, transition from after you finish a coaching point before they get going again. But then there's also going to be times where players are standing in line because you're doing a rotation in some capacity. Our goal is to get players playing, but there are times where a work to rest ratio, how much they're active versus the break, is necessary for them to be able to perform at their best level. So, some tricks of the trade, and then Rachel, I have a couple questions for you to chime in on with this,
Yep.
is we want to make sure we keep it moving because the more that there is downtime, the more you're going to see distraction and boredom occur at every age. At the younger ages, they're watching the butterflies. At the older ages, they're talking about the cute boy, the cute girl, school, whatever it might be, but they're going to start to get distracted. The second piece is, can we coach less and observe more? No lectures. They don't want to hear from you. It's not about us, right? It's about them. Can we get feedback quickly? Can we find ways to get in and get out or pull players aside so we don't interrupt flow? And then the last one is transition moments and realizing they matter. Rachel mentioned before the idea of intentionality for us, thinking about player management as we're doing it. So, Rachel, sometimes as coaches, our problem is we feel like we have to be coaching to be successful. And it could be because it's our own thing, right? We think that. Other times it's perception. People don't see us coaching and they think, oh, they're not a good coach. They don't know what they're doing. So, how can we still engage with players if we're not verbally coaching all the time?
Absolutely. There are moments, obviously, where I'll let the session go, and obviously, I want to stop it, right? Or I want to say something. But in that moment, I actually pay attention to the players off the ball. So, obviously, the ones that are on it, they're doing their thing. But I really try to engage with the ones that kind of might be out to outer space, or if in the older age groups might be having kind of a down day or whatever. That's a simple motion of going over and being like, hey, I really saw what you tried to do there. If we could keep going, maybe try to do a little bit quicker. It's your time again to stay engaged and keep them, I guess, motivated to be there and to show that you care, right? That they're not just blending in with the group. So for me, it's a moment where I have to you have to be intentional about not talking. I know it's hard. Like we all call about joysticking and things. Like I do it in games. I do it because especially when like the directors come over, we're all guilty of it. We want to show that we know what we're talking about and we're just kind of talking a little bit more and puffing up our chest. But actually, it's the moments where you can let them make the decisions and fail that they're going to learn more than you telling them in that moment what to do. That's why we get on parents so much because they want to tell them in that moment what to do in the game. And it's like, that's not helpful. So I think it goes also to the transition moments that Marcy talked about, especially with the younger age groups. There are times where they come back from water or they're leaving a session and they're goofing off. And it's like, how can I bring them back into the session quickly, but also understand that we want to have them having fun? So one of the ones I do, if they're coming back is Rachel says or coach says, and it sounds silly, but it actually works. And so if they see one player doing high knees and say Rachel says does high knees or coach says jumping jacks, the other players are like, what is that player doing? Like, I want to be a part of that. And so they all start to gather quickly and they don't want to be the one that's the last one. So that's a kind of little trick you can do to kind of keep them engaged. And then once they're there, it's like, okay, we're moving on to the next thing. So you've got their attention, but it's also doing little silly things to kind of get them there. The other one is I'm thinking of something. So depending on the age group, if it's boys, I'm thinking of a video game and they start asking questions, right? And then this player wants to start asking questions and this player, or if it's a little younger girls team, like I'm thinking of a Disney princess and then they start asking questions. So it's about understanding your age group. If it's a teenage boy, it could be, well, I'm thinking of, what do teenage boys think of? So it's just about, again, knowing your audience and finding those little transition moments to kind of bring them back in. So hopefully that helps you guys.
No, I think it's so important and so wonderful. And it's for us to remember that anytime I've been to a practice or I've led a practice or I've coached a practice, the time that the players get most frustrated is when you stop it. You hear them go, not again. Why can't we just play? Or within our league, and Rachel, I don't know if I've told you this, we have a great day that the coaches love, and I say this very facetiously, called Super Silent Sunday. And all the coaches who I can't see right now are all smiling, and the couple I can are laughing. But it is a Sunday every season where the parents and coaches, except for U9, cannot coach. And guess what? Every player that I've ever talked to said That is their favorite game of the season. They love it. And even if it's so awkward and silent, you could hear a pin drop because our players don't, talk so much on the sidelines, but they don't talk on the field. They love it. So, to Rachel's point about finding moments where we can give them ownership, again, I'm going to say it over and over. Power equals fun for players and children. They're told constantly by adults what to do. So giving them moments of power doesn't take away our authority. It actually gives them more power to want to do better, to want to be better, to want to try more, and are excited to do it again. So it's such an important component. And something we have is a couple of different ideas, because another one that can be tricky is when players are sitting out. And this is more in rotation and activities and training sessions, in scrimmages when you have full players or teams out, or in games when you have substitutes. So a way that has really worked is you give them a job, give them a task. So these are just 3 examples, and I'll let Rachel walk through them, of some jobs or some tasks. Depending on the age, you may have to simplify it. If they're older, you can add some complexity on what you can have players doing, because now, even when they're out, not only are they locked in and focused, but they feel ownership. They feel a part of it. They feel value, because afterward, before they go in, you could tell them, hey, tell coach, you have to report to me. This is a really important thing. I need to know this, and you're helping me. You're my assistant coach on the sideline, right? Guess what? They're going to go home and say, I got to be an assistant coach today. And that's going to make them super excited. Rachel, do you want to talk about some ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into a ton of depth in each one, but one that they really like is if they are accountable for the points, specifically if the let's say the topic is we're trying to be creative and combine, and so wall passes, right? Wall passes are worth 3 points. One goal, just straight to the goal, is worth 1 point. And so you start to see them not only try to bring the topic out because they get more points, but they're held accountable because I make them obviously keep score, because it makes it more fun, it makes it more engaging. And so that's kind of where you get to maybe not so much the little guys, but as they kind of get into those adolescents where the competition, the winning matters inside the session, you'll start to see them become just a little bit more accountable for the goal scoring. And then the other one is I want to touch on is at the end, if for some reason I always say the losing team, the winning team gets to pick a funny dance move that they have to do, or the winning team gets to choose if they're doing, it doesn't have to be fitness. I think a lot of people think that if you lose, it equates to fitness. I think you can actually spin it to where it's more of a fun, enjoyable, losing team that has to do it. So that's something you could also take a kind of do your own spin on.
No, thanks. And something I wanted to throw out here is an idea of skill of the round is a cool little idea that I've seen done in some different clubs. So it's the idea of whatever the focus is for that activity or for that specific component of practice, you're looking for who can accomplish the skill at the best level, the fastest level. They
Yeah.
try something new, they're taking a risk. So you can have them, so it could be the spotter who's looking for to seeing if that skill, if you're focusing on a corver or a specific technical component, who's trying it. And then it could be, we're going to give a shout out to that. So it's a skill of the round, a way to get them excited. And we're going to show a clip in a little bit that kind of works with this on a little bit bigger scale that Rachel's done with her team. But anytime that player to player can give shout outs, that is exciting. That is fun. Smiles go all the way up to their ears, and you're going to see it in a minute in a video. But it's something new that I saw that I thought was an interesting idea to connect to. So as we continue, there are going to be times in practice that energy is going to drop. And it won't be because your activity is bad. It won't be because the training session's not working. It's going to be because they're children. And they're going to get tired. They've been to school that day. They've had a long whatever else is going on. That's too hot out, whatever the reasons are. So we wanted to give you a couple of, we like to say, different levers you could pull if energy starts to drop. So a couple of these, and I'll throw in them. And then Rachel, I want you to kind of chime in as well, because there's a component of this that's really important for us to discuss. But the idea of ownership. So let players choose the rule for the game, right? Change it up. If you have autonomy, it creates immediate buy-in. So you pick a player, hey, what are we doing today? Oh, we're doing, okay, two-touch finishing. All right. Oh, hey, everyone has to use their left foot. And it's not from the lens of mandating, because those that have taken a course with me know I'm not a fan of restriction in any capacity. It eliminates creativity. However, it's different if it's a 2-minute piece of the activity. So it's not the whole thing. The player picks it and it's a chunk and then it goes back to normal. So it's almost like it just throws them for a second, cognitively changes where they're at, and then physically makes them adapt, right? Which is beneficial. Addition one is throw in something that's a surprise, right? So add a challenge. Okay, everybody freeze, do this, right? And it's something, again, that happens right in the middle of the activity that starts to just shift them into something that's going to be, again, random fun, and they're going to be laughing about it. The last one is the idea of connection. So now can we add a buddy or a team challenge, but making sure that inclusion is occurring. So everyone has a partner, everyone has a group. The question I want to ask you, Rachel, connected to these levers, and if you have any more, we want to hear everything you have to give us because we're so excited. But there's still a lens of, again, perception. That's something that's really important, because for us as coaches, even if we have these tools or don't have these tools, there's a lot of eyes watching, there's a lot of people thinking and having opinions. So if within this, practice is not going to look necessarily structured, it's going to be a little messy, it's going to be chaotic. So how can we explain that, or how can we educate parents or other coaches about that, that it's okay if kids are laughing and moving and still having fun if it doesn't look normal?
Yeah, for sure. I talk a lot about patterns with parents. And one of those would be if obviously if they're watching practice all the time, they're obviously if there's a balance between the work effort, the technical component, the topics that you're working on, and you're throwing in tidbits here and there, I think that will go over better versus a session if you look over, and I've seen where players aren't really moving around, they're playing knockout for 30 minutes of the session, and then they transition into another game and it's slow. If that coach has a pattern of doing that every single session for months on end, you're going to have an issue. So what I do is I communicate with my parents. We obviously know we're working on every week, but if they know what we're trying to work on and they see us kind of throw in some things to kind of, again, keep them engaged, I just tell them straight out that, my job is to keep them and to retain and have them stay in soccer, right? If they're not having fun, they're going to leave. And so that's the number one goal, is to keep them here, wanting to have fun, playing soccer. So again, it goes back to that pattern, almost like if a player doesn't really play all the time. I always tell parents, look, I'm so sorry. Like I totally forgot about Ben on the bench that one moment. It's not something that happens all the time. So, please just kind of let it go in that moment. But if a pattern of Ben sitting on a sideline for every single game, you're going to have a problem. So if that makes any sense, if you can kind of just sandwich things together within reason, I feel like they're going to see that you actually have the player's best intentions versus just kind of going out there willy-nilly and just throwing stuff together.
No, thank you, Rach. And that's going to kind of lead us to toward the end of practice, right? There's a lot of different things we can do during, but toward the end, it's always important that we end with a finisher. We like to call it a finisher, something that makes them smile. Can be soccer related, connected to the activity that you're finishing up on, can be absolutely nothing that has to do with soccer, but they're going to leave giggling and laughing, because the true assessment happens in the car. And some of you may have been told or heard the idea of the dreaded car ride home connected to the parent, but I want to flip that and say, what does the child talk about in the car? Because whatever the child talks about is the memory, is the piece that they're excited about, is the core value connected to what they took away. And I promise you from my own experiences, most of the time it's not dribbling or passing or shooting. It's, guess what we did? Coach made us do this today. Or guess what? I got to do this. Or I had the chance to do this. Or we played this game and this is how it went. Right? It's going to be a memory connected to an event, not necessarily what it is. So when the question for us to ask is, how do you know if practice was fun? What are they telling mom and dad in the car at home, or grandma or grandpa? And something we could do is there's 3 simple things that we can ask parents to tell our kids in that question, because the parents need education too, right? What did you work on today? What is one thing you learned? What did you enjoy the most? If parents ask that, it will tell you a lot about the experience. So again, it's what did you work on today? What is one thing you learned? What did you enjoy most? That's going to be a really happy car ride home, but it's also going to help us know by getting some feedback maybe from parents, because the parents will be like, hey, I heard you did this today. Hey, this is what happened. So it's thinking again about the finisher. But Rachel, I know we have a couple videos connected to some finisher activities. Do you want me to show what these
Yeah,
ones are?
go ahead and then I'll explain.
All right.
Burrow. Sit down. That's right. Good. Friend. Burrow. All right. Anybody pointing out yet? No? Best friend. Anybody? Oh, Omar and Callum, you guys are out. All right, have a seat, have a seat.
All right, so I'll just kind of start there. This is actually a game that I picked up when I went to Honduras on a missions trip. It's actually called Baby Backpack Burrow, but this age group's too young to pick the other person up like a baby. So we changed it to best friend because all they have to do is kind of give their buddy a hug. So there's a lot of different things you can do from this. Number one, you can create inclusion by helping them pair up with a boy or a girl on their team that they're not necessarily best friends with, right? And you know who they are. They all kind of congregate with each other. So I pair them up with who I think they can kind of get to know better and they can honestly start to form a relationship. But it's just a fast transition game. Best friend, they have to hold them quickly. Backpack, they jump on their back. And Burrow obviously is like a donkey. They have to sit on them like a donkey. So it seems silly, but it keeps them rolling and laughing literally all the way to the car. It's a competition. So basically, the last group that transitions into whatever pose it is, they're out. So you didn't see here, but by the time it gets down to two groups, it gets super competitive. Everybody makes a circle. They're cheering for the group that they want to finish. And again, it's just a fun way to end the practice.
This one might not have worked, Rachel. No, this one, the video. The video on that one didn't go.
Okay,
Can you
so
press
I'll
this one?
explain it. But this is more of an event that I held. It's not obviously your typical training session because you have kids dressed up as Dalmatians, which is not a normal occurrence. So the idea is obviously I did this after camps, after training sessions, and you can't really see, but it's not just the girls, it is the boys that love to participate. But a dance circle is as simple as getting a circle and I say, give them a beat, and we start clapping. And then kids that are super a little bit more outgoing, they start off and they jump in and they do a couple dance moves. And then you start to see kids come out of their shell that you wouldn't necessarily see. And they come in and they do a little dance move, but it's not even about the dancing. It's more about bringing them together, having a laugh, making it fun. Sometimes the coaches will get in, and again, that shows the vulnerable side. I'll usually jump in and do a couple dance moves. If you're not the dancing type, then I find that especially if you're a director or if you run a league, find somebody or find certain people that can do things if you don't feel comfortable, and then encourage them to kind of branch out and try different things. But again, it's more about thinking outside the box. So in this video, there's an older team that got together and put together this whole little routine, and you could have seen the smiles on all the younger players. They were just enamored that these girls took the time to come in and do that. So that kind of leads into one of the other things that we'll talk about at the end here. The last part that you can do, and this is something I do every day. I hope this is something that you can take and start incorporating into your practices. But we do a trainer of the day. And I start with this and I remind them right before the start. Okay, everybody, trainer of the day starts now. And that means, all right, we're here to be respectful. We're here to listen. We're here to be a great teammate. We're here to try new things. And so what that means is I'm not looking for the best player on the field. I mean, we obviously have athletic kids. We have kids that are a little bit more slow to progress. It's not about that. It's about the kids that are, again, showing more effort to be a good teammate, or they help up a friend if they fall over. Or let's say they've been really struggling at this certain skill, and all of a sudden they do it in the session and it works. Those are the moments that you praise and you really want to build them up. So I do it sometimes where I pick the trainer of the day, but it actually has a bigger impact if the players do. And this can go from under 6 all the way up into the professional level, because Kids want to be noticed by their peers. And if you can think that a little 7-year-old boy thinks it's special, think about a teenage girl that might be in a different clique with another girl on her team, and she calls her out at being really good in the session because she was trying hard or whatever. You would be shocked at how much self-esteem that raises for that player. So in this video clip, it basically shows the younger boys identifying a couple people and just kind of look at the faces of the boys that they point out to see how much of an impact it makes.
All right, we got trainer of the day. Does anyone want to go first? Okay, Finn, who do you think?
Lucas,
Where's Lucas? Point to him. All right, why?
because he's kind.
Oh, I love that. Okay, anybody else want to nominate somebody? Okay, Bryce, who?
Hard always.
I love that. I do notice that. And
So the video cut out, but basically, if you see Omar's face right here, he's got the blue little wristbands on. His buddy Bryce just called out and said one thing that he did about the training. What do you think Omar is going to do when he goes back to the car to see his mom and dad? He's going to talk about how he was trainer of the day and my friend Bryce picked out something fun or something that he noticed. And so the whole idea is to keep kids coming back, having fun, want to be there. And these are just, again, little ways that you can end the session. And I've said it all the time. I've had sessions where I show up, I'm exhausted from work, I don't want to be there,
All
I have
right.
to put on a face. But what I do is I end with whatever little like fun little nuance. Head catch is another one. If you have maybe the worst session, but you end on something fun and something valuable, you actually kind of give yourself a break and you see how much of an impact it has on the boys. And a lot of the time, whatever team you're coaching, they don't see those little moments that you might, not be perfect at, but they remember that. So hopefully that's something you guys can try out.
No, thinking they're so cute. The kids are just so cute. It's fun. It's fun to see them right when they start to again just be so proud to talk about their friend and their friend's so proud that their friend is talking about them. And it connects right into this because another way for kids to have fun is for them to feel valued. Obviously, kind of the idea of emotional safety is not only a big topic, but a very important topic right now, connected to sport in general, specifically youth sports. So here's a couple of examples you could just see, a little graphic in regards to roles that you can give, because it's important that every player has a role. The best kid on the team, the kid that needs some development, the kid that's the biggest distraction, the most focused, doesn't matter who they are. They all need to feel valued and have a role. So thinking about, and you may not necessarily give them, you are the energy giver, but it's more thinking about the characteristic of behavior that you might give to some of these players. So again, if the player is not the most skilled player, but they're on the bench, can they be the loudest cheerleader? Can someone be thinking of a problem? Can be keep people think of kind of what it could be. So again, thinking about how can you help the team today and what role can you take? Another way that we can help connect it to fun is a lot of players do actually view fun is only when you have success. So it's only fun when I win. If I lose, it's not fun. I think my 6-year-old has told me that many, many times already, and he's not even in competitive sport yet. So the idea of can we give players micro goals, I like to call them, within the idea of the macro goal of the team. And this can also help when a lot of times you say, which I get a lot in when I come out and do clinics or when I work with different coaches in my role, is, well, I have so many different abilities on my team. How do I manage them all? Give them goals that work for them where they can feel success. Because not only does power equal fun, success equals fun. But success can be defined however we define it. It doesn't have to be winning. It doesn't have to be scoring the most goals. It could be making a quick decision. It could be giving the most effort. It could be communicating the most and the loudest, right? Things that they can fully control, even if their ability is still developing. So, Rachel, you use the term game within a game. Do you want to elaborate on that real quick?
Yeah, just even an example from this last weekend. My boys' team went into a game that they obviously were probably not going to win. They were playing the first team of another club, and I knew going in it probably wasn't going to go our way. But if my mentality was, it's just about the score, and I was kind of down, they're going to read that. They're going to read your energy, and they're gonna kind of basically act the way that you are. So we made it a game within a game by, okay, if we can properly build out of the back one time and, play the ball, or do a 1v1 skill, then we have done it, you guys. Like we are winning life. And honestly, that's all it takes. And so by the end of that game, I came into them, I said, that's one of the best games I've ever seen you guys play up to this time. And the look on their face, they forgot about the score. So it's up to you guys how you approach the game and the training. And so if your mentality is about winning only, then they're going to think about that as well.
No, I think that's so beautifully said. So we wanted to show this. We have like two more slides and then we're going to open it up for questions. So start to think about if you have any, because we want to hear from you all a little bit, if there's anything else we can cover. But this is just an overview. We called it your tactical toolbox, right? To make soccer fun. And it just reviews all the things we said, kind of connected to ideas and tricks and what we can do to be intentional to make sure that fun and enjoyment is at the forefront and the activity and the outcome is at the secondary focus on what it is, right? Because what it really boils down to is that overall it has to be about more than soccer, because soccer will end for every single player at some point in their life, even if they play professionally, but the memories don't. Right? Rachel put a really good quote in here. Great coaches don't just teach soccer, they create fun and experiences that shape confident players. So the picture on the left is a team I coached, and that person in the middle dressed up is a parent. That is not a coach. It's a parent who got into the enjoyment and fun and started making it really fun on the sidelines for the kids to get them excited for games. The kids loved it when this dad showed up in a whole lot. It was not Halloween. It was absolutely random. I don't even know why he decided to. But a culture was built that everyone can enjoy the experience. Win, lose, it doesn't matter. It's about the enjoyment. And then Rachel, do you want to quickly talk about the picture,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, Marcy just said the word culture. That was my biggest goal when I took over in my director role was how can we create a unique club that drives people from all over to want to be here? Because where I was in Northern California, there was a club on every corner. And so it didn't matter if you were a good coach, they would just go to the next best thing if they didn't get on that first team, right? So how can you retain players in creative ways? And no joke, by having different activities and little events that we threw out the day. This one's a USA training. Every 4th of July, I'd have all the kids dress up. I'd bring the biggest speaker. We'd play a little 2v2 tournament across the board. And it wasn't just the younger age groups, it's all the age groups put together. So you've got the younger players playing with the older players. And you can imagine just the vibe and the positivity that everybody brought together. It wasn't about the soccer, it was about them in that moment. And so these are just some different ideas. We're talking about outside the box. I threw everything at them, but you know what? They totally engaged and they tried it and people were into it. And so, it's about, again, not what you do on the field, it's what you can also do off the field. And so I think if I have my biggest testimony is at the end of every year, we have our graduating seniors who are committing to go to college. They come and give a little speech. What do you think they talk about? It's not about the training that they had at under 10. It's not about the state cup win that they had. It was about the times they had with their friends on and off the field. And because of that, we retained them, we gained more players, and we basically encouraged them to just continue to grow and just have fun. I mean, and seriously, the soccer piece was there. This was a top ECNL club. And so it wasn't like we were throwing out the soccer. This was a top tier league that brought people in and we kept people because we did extra things. And so I think that's what people lose sometimes is we just come to do the soccer. I've seen professional coaches or professional players come into the coaching scene and they struggle because all they think about is just the coaching and that have to be serious. And it's actually the people that have kind of come from the ground up. When I was 19, that's how I got into coaching and I had to figure it out. And these were kind of some of the ways that kind of helped me get through it. So if any of it makes sense or it's something that you want to try, hopefully that can resonate with you.
And I thought I'd throw a little personal one on here in the why behind it. So if y'all don't know, I played in the league when I was a kid. On the left is a picture of me as a 13-year-old with two friends, teammates. This was after a tough game and we were just having fun on the sideline. But it's not about the soccer. To players, it's about the forever memories. Those same two friends, teammates that were in OHTSL, it was called NOGSL back in the day, on my Solon team, were two bridesmaids in my wedding. And the relationships and the rapport started because the environment and the culture that the coach created when I played in my travel program. And now they are two of my best friends who are right next to me on the most important day of my life. Right? So it's about what we're creating in the enjoyment of every aspect of what the game can bring. The game is the vehicle. right? But the road that we're taking them on can go so much further. So at this point, my email's on here too, if anybody has questions or wants to learn more. And I'm going to speak for Rachel. I'm sure that I could pass along hers if anybody wants to talk to her as well. But I'm going to stop share. And I want to open up the floor for any questions. Feel free to unmute. Rachel and I can share. If we don't have the answer, we can get you the answer. But we want to pause for a minute and give everyone an opportunity to speak out if there's anything you'd want to discuss.
Perfect.
I have a
Nailed it.
question.
Hi, Gina.
Yeah, you did nail it. How are you? Your video cut out when the boys were playing the game. So it was backpack for a piggyback, and Burrow
Yes.
was the donkey. What was the other one?
Best friend. And they
Okay.
have to hug. They just basically put their arm around him. If you
Yeah,
have older
okay.
age groups, you
Yeah.
can incorporate baby, and that's the one where they jump
They
in their
hold.
arms like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just too young, and I've seen them fall over, and it's even worse. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I like the different stuff. Like you do the farmer and the pig, where the pig crawls through the guy's their legs, and they open their leg. You do all kinds of different ones. But I like different ideas. So thank you. Yeah, it was
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Any other questions? There are no bad questions. If you're thinking it, so is someone else.
Are these materials available?
Yes.
that you
So
showed
what?
today?
Yes, what we're going to do, Ben, is we're recording this. We're going to get it up. If you go into the OHTSL site, and I can't remember if we called it webinar series or webinars, it actually has all the webinars we've ever done. This video will be up there as well. So you'll be able to rewatch it. We'll get it up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to do that with all 3 webinars in the series. So then you can rewatch, pause, look at the slides, whatever's on there. So we'll make sure that's accessible to everyone on our website.
Yeah, thanks. Still trying to get over my depression for being benched for so long and no one noticing. Yeah.
No problem. Absolutely. Dieter.
Yeah, so I have a unique situation where, I don't coach the practices, just the games. And so I'm trying to get them to learn positions because they don't do that during the practices. Any advice in trying to make that fun?
What age group do you do?
U9.
Okay. So when I did the younger age groups, obviously they're visual learners, right? You can do so much on a board to be like, okay, you're going to play the outside mid. I would do what's called a mini formation. And so basically what I'd have them do is stand in their formation, but like a miniature size, so they can see exactly where they're supposed to go, but on the bigger field when they go there. So, Rachel knows that she's playing the 9 or the center forward, and then, Abby's in the left back. But you can see that it's almost like they're standing right next to each other, but they can see in that moment kind of what the formation should look like. Marcy, do you have any other tips?
Well, what I'd say is in our 3rd webinar, Dieter, we're going to be talking about roles and responsibilities as we're teaching positions. So that would be a good one for you to jump on, because we're going to really hone in on more teaching the roles and responsibilities than focusing on specific positions. And that might be a way to do it, just for them to kind of understand. But a lot of times within the idea of fun as their learning position, it's giving them goals within that position. So if you're the outside mid, can you, and it goes back to the idea of the micro goal, give them something that they're trying to accomplish being in that position. So if you're in a defender, as soon as the person gets the ball, if it's on your side, can you be the first person to the ball? Right. So it's starting to teach the idea of pressure, but now that's the big reward. So that's the goal that they're trying to accomplish. So it could be position specific, connected to what you want them to do, that can make it fun because they're the ones who now get to do it when they're playing that role. So that's just one example, but I would jump on that 3rd webinar because we're going to talk a lot about how to teach rules and responsibilities connected to positions.
Perfect. Thanks.
Of course. Kara.
Yeah, thanks. I have a great group of parents, so I really loved the idea of having them take questions as they're leaving practice on the way home. I jotted down 2 of 3. Can you remind me what the 3 were? I jotted down what's one thing you learned today? What did you enjoy most? What was the 3rd?
The 3rd one was, and I want to make sure I say it correctly too. But yes, it was, what did you learn today? It was, what did you enjoy
did
the
you work
moment.
on, and what
And
did
then
you enjoy the most?
what did you work on today?
What'd you work on? Thank
Yeah,
you.
and another one can be, what was your favorite part?
Yeah.
What
Okay.
was your favorite part and why? So yeah, it's just anything to make it spin. I mean, for some, it's also like, what's one thing you want to work on? So it can still be a positive focus connected to an area that the player recognized. That can also, though, be an avenue to open up that the coach pointed that out, which could be depending on how that was pointed out, but just ways to make it so it's highlighting the positive of the experience so the player is excited for the next training or the next game.
Yeah, that's great. I'm thinking also, like, again, great group of parents, and I'm sure they'd be open to sharing just how that's going as well,
Yeah.
which I think it could build on. So
Feedback
thank
can
you.
only help you, right? So
Yeah,
absolutely, I think that's
exactly.
great. Kara, any other
So we
questions?
run, we do foot skills practices like on Fridays, which is obviously more technically focused, and it's a big age group from like 7 up to like 14-year-olds, I think. And I know I get pushback from my daughter. Sometimes it's boring, and I'm like, this stuff's important. Right? You got to be there. But is there something different you do for like those technical sessions to make them fun, as opposed to
Yeah.
the practices which are a little bit more, you can, I don't know, there's a little bit more leeway because there's more scrimmages and things like that, right? Whereas opposed
Yeah.
to, oh, we're just trying to work on ball skills or something like that.
Yeah. The one that I do when I call it like messy dribbling, where they're kind of like all in a pack and you're just doing different skills and stuff like that, is the body part game. And basically, when they're dribbling, you can throw in, okay, we're going to do a scissors, but then the next one would be, all right, knee. And then what they have to do is stop the ball with their right knee or left knee near. And then it starts to get them to kind of obviously listen, but it throws in some fun. And then you can go all over the place. You can do left ear or nose or whatever, but it's basically you're incorporating the skills. I do it a lot because I want them to learn, but I want them sometimes not to know that they're learning. Does that make sense? So it basically, you're almost teaching them the skills within a game that they think is fun, but they're actually getting better. If you go into it and say, we're going to do dribbling to a cone and we're going to do a skill, like nobody wants to do that. So I think if you throw in kind of like a game, like I said, a game within the training of the game, they'll engage more. So, and again, you can have as much fun with that as, but try it and see if it kind of gets them a little bit more perked up.
Another
Thanks.
thing that can be helpful, it's a little more work on your end, Ben, is if you can find some professional games or college games or whatever it might be where you could see players in a professional world using those specific skills. Because now the players are going to try and replicate someone they want to be like. So it's like, be like Mike. The idea of they want to replicate something. Oh, well, this player did it, so I want to try and do it. And so I need to get better at it. I want to practice it. So incentivizing the why that they're doing it versus just because I said so, which is the worst thing you could say to a child, right? Is making it about they want to. So changing the lens from I'm telling you to they want to in whatever capacity that is on any activity, parenting advice that I need to take myself. But the idea again of how can we start to make it that they're excited because they want to do it and they get to do it versus we're telling them to do it.
And then the ownership piece, Marcia, like when if you assign different players within that Ben of being the skill leader, it gives them ownership that they get to choose the skill that you guys are working on, right? And so they get to be the caller, and you can kind of stand back and just kind of watch what they're doing. I find that engages them a little bit more, and it gives them ownership of like, oh wow, like I get to pick the skill, and then you can kind of bring other certain players out of their shell that might not want to talk so much. But yeah, those are just kind of different ways you can maybe spice it up a little bit versus just doing the skills.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Anyone else? Any other questions? All right, I think we're good. Well, Rachel, a little ripple behind the scenes for Rachel. Thank you so much for joining our coaches, our league up here in good old Cleveland. She hears about us all the time because I brag about this league to everyone. But thank you so much for taking the time, Rach. We're so grateful for your knowledge, your expertise, your enthusiasm, and hopefully we can now build better experiences for our players as we're going into the beginning of spring season. And good luck to all of you. I know some of you had your first games this weekend. I know some of you have it coming up. As you know, I'm available as a resource to everyone within the league. in my role. So please feel free to reach out, pick my brain. Again, if I don't have the answer, I will get it for you. But my goal is to help all of you feel more comfortable and confident to help facilitate a better environment within the league for our players. Just as a reminder, we do have 2 more webinars in the series. We have one on April 27th called Try Us Out. We'll have another guest speaker on, and we're going to be focusing on how to manage tryouts. What do tryouts look like? Because we all know that's looming and our favorite part of the year. Totally saying that as a joke. But again, something that we need to prepare for. And then on May 3rd, I will be leading a webinar connected to roles and responsibilities of positions. So we're starting to look a little bit different lens instead of honing in on formation to think about how we could teach positions through the lens of roles and responsibilities at all ages. So please register for those. We'd love to have you bring questions, bring ideas. But again, if I could support any of you in any way, let me know. But you being here already says a lot. So thank you to everyone. We're so grateful. Have a wonderful.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Is there any opportunity to observe one of you, like in your coaching environment, to see how you run a practice?
Great question, Ben.
Ooh.
Shoot me an email, and if I'm not doing it, I'll be able to connect you with someone. But another really great way is I do run the coaching courses all the time, where there are times I do jump in, or you see others, and you'll hear kind of a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching. So feel free to sign up for the U.S. soccer licenses. It's a really great avenue to start to get the foundational observation, but also an experiential opportunity as well. But shoot me an email. I'm happy to help in any way I can. But thanks, Ben.
Yep. And what did you say your email was? I know you said it was in
doc@ohtsl.com.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you, everybody. We can hang out if anybody has individual questions as well. But again, thank you. Have a wonderful night.